In 1692, the quiet town of Salem became a stage of fear and suspicion. Whispers of witchcraft spread like wildfire, turning neighbors into enemies overnight. People believed the devil walked among them, hiding in plain sight. What began with strange fits among young girls quickly escalated into a frenzy that would end in tragedy. This was not just a trial of witches, it was a trial of fear itself. Imagine living in a world where every cough, every strange dream, or even a sudden illness could condemn you. In Salem, Massachusetts, the mere accusation of witchcraft was enough to seal someone's fate. Families were torn apart, reputations destroyed, and innocent lives taken, all in the name of purifying a community from evil. But was it truly evil they were fighting, or fear itself? The Salem Witch Trials revealed how fragile truth can be when fear takes control. Children's testimonies, often exaggerated or manipulated, became powerful weapons. Entire lives hung on the trembling words of frightened teenagers. The courtrooms were filled with screams, fainting, and visions of demons. But behind the spectacle was a darker question. Who truly benefited from this chaos? It started with the mysterious illness of two young girls, Betty Paris and Abigail Williams. They convulsed, screamed, and claimed unseen spirits tormented them. Doctors had no explanation, except one: witchcraft. That single word ignited panic. Soon, fingers pointed at enslaved women, poor neighbors, and anyone considered different. Salem was now consumed by fear, and the hunt for witches had begun. Court records show how absurd the accusations became. People were charged with flying through the night, casting spells on livestock, or sending specters to torment children. What's more shocking is that these wild claims were accepted as evidence. The trials blurred the line between reality and imagination, proving that in Salem, belief itself was more dangerous than any spell. Behind the hysteria, politics and greed played their part. Land disputes, family rivalries, and deep social tensions fueled the accusations. If your neighbor wanted your land, an accusation of witchcraft could solve that problem. It wasn't only about fear of the supernatural, it was also about power, money, and revenge. Salem's tragedy was as human as it was mysterious. Those accused faced an impossible choice: confess and live, or deny and face execution. But confessions meant admitting to crimes you never committed. For some, pride and faith mattered more than survival. They chose the gallows over falsehood. Their courage still echoes through history, reminding us of the human cost of fear-driven justice. 19 innocent people were hanged, one man was pressed to death under heavy stones, and more than 100 others imprisoned. Salem's witch hunt did not uncover sorcery, it destroyed lives. The chilling silence that followed the executions forced the town to reflect. What had they done? Was justice truly served, or had fear twisted them into executioners? The image of Salem's gallows still haunts American history. Ordinary villagers, branded as servants of the devil, marched to their deaths while their neighbors watched. Each execution deepened the terror, convincing others to stay silent or even accuse their friends. Fear was the noose that bound Salem tighter than any rope. Not all of Salem's victims were strangers. Families accused each other, husbands testified against wives, and children pointed at parents. Fear had poisoned the very core of the community. The trials proved that when paranoia rules, trust becomes impossible, and love itself can turn into betrayal. Salem was not destroyed by witches, it was destroyed by fear. Even the most respected figures weren't safe. Reverend George Burroughs, once a minister in Salem, was accused of being the devil's right hand. He recited the Lord's Prayer flawlessly at the gallows, something people believed witches could not do. Yet the crowd still cheered his execution. Reason had vanished, and fear had blinded an entire town. The Salem witch trials were not just about superstition, they revealed how deeply religion and law were entangled. The Puritans believed God's wrath was real, and any sign of witchcraft was an attack on their very survival. Their courts became pulpits, and their verdicts were shaped more by sermons than evidence. Faith, twisted by fear, became deadly. Salem's story is a warning about what happens when fear overrides reason. The trials were a mirror of human weakness, our readiness to believe the unbelievable, to condemn without proof, to destroy what we do not understand. In Salem, it wasn't witches that haunted the people, it was their own reflection. Over time, survivors spoke out against the injustice. Families demanded apologies, reparations, and recognition for their loved ones. Decades later, courts annulled some convictions, and Salem itself became a symbol of caution. Yet the scars remained. Even centuries later, the trials remind us how fragile freedom is when fear controls society. Modern scholars now believe the hysteria may have roots in science. Some point to ergot poisoning from contaminated rye, causing hallucinations and fits. Others suggest psychological stress from war, disease, and isolation. Perhaps it was never witchcraft at all, but the desperate human mind, searching for something to blame. Salem's tragedy was not isolated. Europe had witnessed centuries of witch hunts, burning tens of thousands at the stake. Salem, however, became infamous because it showed how quickly fear could consume even the New World, a land meant for new beginnings. America's dream of freedom was haunted by the same old fears. For many, Salem remains a ghost story. Tourists visit the town, walking where accused witches once stood. Museums display the artifacts, and legends whisper through its streets. Yet beneath the storytelling lies a sobering truth. Salem's ghosts are not witches, but innocent people condemned by lies and fear. The Salem Witch Trials live on in American culture, inspiring plays, films, and novels. Stories like Arthur Miller's The Crucible turn the trials into powerful allegories about paranoia and injustice. Salem is no longer just a town in Massachusetts, it is a timeless warning about the dangers of mass hysteria. The question remains, why do we still fear witches? Perhaps Salem's story endures because it reflects something deep within us: the fear of the unknown, the need to control it, and the destruction that follows. The trials may be centuries old, but their message is as urgent today as ever. When the last noose tightened and the last stone fell, Salem was left in silence. The hysteria had burned itself out, leaving guilt, shame, and grief. There were no witches, no spells, no demons, only people consumed by fear. Salem's greatest mystery is not the witches they hunted, but the darkness they unleashed within themselves.